actions. Okay, now I'm gonna really tell you how these work in sort of a normal voice. So, what actions are a way in Photoshop to write your own automated script. So you're familiar now with using Bridge, batch rename, in Camera Raw, save and convert files, all sorts of things. But you're limited to the things that you can do within Camera Raw and Bridge. What actions let you do is actions. Oh, sorry. They let you write your own script for things that you can do in Photoshop, and you are in total control. This will save you so much time if you can learn these. And one thing that most people shy away from actions because they try and do too many complicated moves, or they try and do moves where they think the computer can think for them. So for the most part, when you write an action, it has to be more of a global type change to your image. In other words, actions can't do your cropping for you. I mean, it could crop, but it couldn't make your choice of where to crop. So let's take a look at these pictures. I'm going to open one. And these are not the Rolling Stones. In fact, it kind of looks like these are the non-Rolling Stones. You know, I've told them down at the league office 1,000 times, I don't roll on Shabbos. And either do these rocks. They just don't roll anymore. So we're going to actually confine them even further by writing an action to create a border around them. Right now the gray that you see is not the border. That's just your working surface or your viewing surface. So what I'm going to do is bring over the actions palette here so you can see it. In Photoshop, for one thing, you have to be working in TIFFs or PSDs. You could work in your raw format, but it's going to become a Photoshop image. So what we're doing is concentrating on things that you can do within Photoshop. So you won't be in Camera Raw anymore. So this would be at the end of your workflow. You would get the actions palette. Now if it's not showing or not up on your desktop, you would go into Window, and there's a whole list of all the palettes. And so all of these are called palettes, and you know, the most familiar one is probably Layers palette. And so if it's already checked, that means it's open. But if you can't find it and it's not checked, just click on that. That will bring out the actions palette. I still love ya. Oops. So anyway, what I'm going to do is actually clear this palette so it's easy to see what we're doing. So there's a little spot right here. It looks like 3 horizontal lines. And when I click on that, I can just say clear all actions way down here. Delete all actions. I just want to clear the palette. Now, if you had made some special actions that you were saving on your desktop, you don't want to do that. But since if you're working in a classroom or something, you could clear or start over again. Okay, so now here we go. Really pay attention here. The first thing you do is when you're going to write an action, and I want to write an action that I can automate to a batch, and that's a real important phrase, automating to a batch. The first thing that I want to do is make a new set. And so you can see right here, it looks like a folder. And once I click on that, I'm going to call this border. I'm going to make a border on this image. And then click OK. And then you have to do a second click right here, and that's create a new action. And that's going to actually bring up the palette to start your recording. So I click on that. It looks like a little piece of paper. It's right next to the trash can within the palette. So the palette has its own trash can so you can throw things away. I'm going to click on that. And here I like to just title them both the same name, border. It's not anything different. This is a great thing right here. you can actually set a function key to hold this action. Now, it's only good for the desktop you're working on. So if you're working at home, that's great. So I could say F1, which is at the very top of my keyboard, is now going to create I'm going to make a 1-inch border. So it's really convenient. You don't even have to go into the action palette and hit play. When you have an image open, you can just hit F1. So I'm going to hit record. And this is where things get tricky. So as soon as I hit record here, what's going to happen is everything I do is going to be recorded. It's going to follow me everywhere I go within Photoshop until I hit stop. And to record, you do need to have, I like to call it like my guinea pig image up. And so that's what this is my test pilot. And the test pilot is up there so that I could perform and record the action, and that's it. When I'm done, I'm actually not going to save the changes. I'm just using that test pilot image to be able to run, create the border. So, okay, I'm hitting record. Here we go. This is the crucial time. Record. And you'll see right here, it's lit up red. This is kind of like using a DVD player or DVD recorder. So it's red and it's recording. Now, it's not recording me moving around this image, but anything I do within the menus, it's going to record. And you'll be able to see it list down as we work. So, one of the things I think I'll do first, even though it won't be that noticeable, is I'm going to go up into filter and I'm going to just sharpen this image a little. So, I'm just going to do maybe just 120% sharpening. Let's do a radius of 1.3. I just want like kind of a minimal, and that's actually sort of a high threshold. So low radius, not that high of an amount, so I don't have a real extreme, but I'll do a before after. I don't know if you can see, but it gets a little more crisp. And I'll click OK, and then can you see right here it says it's added unsharp mask. It's red right here, so I'm still recording. Anything I do can and will be recorded. The next thing I'm going to do is something new. I'm just going to add a border, a canvas border. So I'm going to go under canvas size. And what I'm doing is actually adding canvas size to my picture. And I'm going to add 2 inches in width and height, which is actually going to split between the picture and give me a 1-inch border. And then I could pick a color. I'm actually just going to pick black. And then click OK. And there's my 1-inch border all the way around. And you can see up here in the actions it says canvas size. So it recorded my canvas size. Now you have to be really careful. I actually just want to hit stop now. I got my 2 moves down, unsharp mask, canvas size. Now stop. Beautiful. Okay, I still love ya. Ooh. Okay, now I don't want to save this image because it's part of my folder. So I'm going to close this image. Don't save the image. And now here I have all my stones that don't roll. And I'm actually going to close that so that I literally have this lonely little Rolling Stones folder. And now what I'm going to do is go back into Photoshop. So I clicked on the Photoshop icon down in the bottom. I know I'm in Photoshop because it says it right here. And I'm going to go to this great menu under File. And you know what? You really got to write this down to remember this. I'm going to go to File, Automate, Batch. File, Automate, Batch. Remember that. Once batch comes up, I get a dialog box. And in this dialog box, like any, you guys have done batch rename, you've changed your file format, and so you know about these things. You don't want to just start clicking wildly. You've really got to read it. So I only have one action in my actions palette, so it's the border. Now what I do is I select my source folder. And in this case, the folder that I want to choose is right here on the desktop. and it was called Rolling Stones 2. So there it is. And by the way, I think there's something like 17 images in there, and I'm going to choose those 17 images. Now here's the thing. I've done an action on like 100 images, and if you're going to do that, I highly recommend that you just put only like 2 images in a folder and run a test on those 2 images. So in other words, you record your action and then run a little test, because if you have a mistake within your action recording, so within the palette, oops, can you see it there? If there was a mistake and it bogs you down, like you have to stop and make a choice. Lots of times if it's JPEG, it'll make you make a choice about how you save it. And if you haven't recorded that correctly, you've wasted all your time, because you're going to have to sit there saying, okay, 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 okay. So that's why I always run a test if I'm going to do a large number of images. 17 isn't that many. So I chose my folder. It's the Rolling Stones 2 folder. And now I wanted to go in a different folder. I want to keep my originals without the border and the sharpening. So I'm going to choose a folder. And again, I'm just going to the desktop. I think that's an easy place as a destination, and then you can put it on your hard drive or somewhere else. New folder, and I'll call this border. Create. Now we're going to choose it. So that should be pretty familiar to you. And everything else I'm leaving as default. And now you're going to see the beauty of this. When I press OK, this thing is going to run all of these on their own. You won't believe it. Okay, here we go. Now, hopefully it'll work, okay? And also, I think it would be a good idea to keep your eye on the actions palette when this is going, because you can actually see it toggle through these 2 actions. You'll see when it goes. Okay, here we go. Now you see all this flashing going on? That, I'm not touching a thing. My hands are up in the air. I'm drinking a beer. But what's happening is all of these images are opening and closing so fast that you're actually not seeing the content of the file. All you're seeing is the border open up. And can you see in the actions, let me see if I can move this. No, I can't. Yeah, there we go. If you can see on that actions palette, that green light going through, and that's for each image. So the image pops up, then it goes unsharp mask, canvas size, done. Unsharp mask, canvas size, done. Isn't that great? And anything you could do in Photoshop, you can do this for. You could run this on 1,000 images. You could have, 50 different things in your action if you wanted to. The problem is I really don't recommend that. Lots of things could go wrong. So again, make sure you test. And so let's take a look. Actually, I have to find my folder that says border. Okay, I lost it. Oh, here it is. Okay. Whew. Thank goodness. There it is. It was just off screen. And let me open it up so you believe me. And there they all are. That fast. Now, you know how long that would take you if you did that one by one? So these have all been sharpened, and each one has a black border around it. And there's a million different things that you could do with this. So any filter, any adjustment, you can just run that through an action. And what we did is called action. We wrote an action, and then the most important part is we didn't use the action because, you could go on each image and just hit play. And I just doubled my border by doing that. I could hit play again, and my border grew again. So I just keep applying the action to this image over and over. Hey, that's kind of cool. But ultimately, what I like to do with actions is not just hit that play button over and over again. That's for single use, which is fine. But I think the power behind actions is truly under the file, automate batch, and that's the key. So enjoy your actions. Actions, actions. When will my fears all disappear? Actions, actions. You could work while I drink a beer with an image already open. Click on new, set that new action. You could record till you're satisfied. But actions, actions. You can't say we never tried. Actions, you're beautiful. But I can't forget to hit stop when I'm tired. Actions, I still love you. I can't even set a function key. Those pictures that we open one by one seem to take an eternity. Go to file our and believe. Actions, actions. Where will it lead us from here? Oh, actions, don't you weep. Now we're going to automate. Go to file, automate batch. But actions, actions. Take time to read the dialogue box. You just recorded that says the source forward to apply. Create a destination to be satisfied. But actions, I love to use you, baby. Every move I make, you record. There ain't a Photoshop palette that comes close to you. Come on, baby, let's record. But actions, actions. Do a test before you run the batch. Actions.